So this bill has three components to it. Quite frankly, I think two of them may be going a little too far. That's a little to the lie and through the lie. This was by request. I do think one of the lie has a lot of merit, and let me explain that provision. We have two attorneys, but I think even in law school, I didn't learn what subrogation meant, so let me talk about that just for a second. So if I'm driving a car and Chairman Peace runs into me, I can make a claim against my carrier, State Farm, and State Farm, even though it's Chairman's fault, my carrier can pay for that. But before they pay me, they will allow me to give my right to them so that they can then go after the chairman. So in the landlord-tenant realm, a lot of apartment complexes or landlords will require you to purchase renter's insurance. And my constituent ran into a situation where the landlord required him to obtain a renter's policy saying you cannot give your right against the landlord to your insurance company in the event your insurance company compensates you for a loss. Okay, so you're waiving the right to subrogation. And so he went out to 5, 6, 10 different insurance companies trying to get a renter's policy where the underwriter was waiving their right to subrogation. Couldn't find one. It just so happened that there was one company out there in the entire universe that would do that. And that was an insurance company owned by the landlord. And so they were making a captive audience for themselves. You can guess the premium was higher than what rates would be out there in the open market. And so he came to me with this is after he'd done 6 months of research. And quite frankly, my legislative aide, who's an attorney, figured this all out and just told me. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm smart. But so my bills, this bill tries to, and may even run into the next bill, does two things. One is, it says that a landlord cannot require that provision in a lease. They can require you to buy renter's insurance. Not trying to change that. We're just saying they can't include in a lease a provision that mandates that you get a policy that waives your right to subrogation. And then secondly, the attorneys may know that in the insurance industry, if it's title insurance, homeowner's insurance, you can't steer, you can't make people buy insurance from a company that you have an ownership interest in, unless you can suggest it, but you must disclose that there's a financial connection between the two. And so that's the other piece of some legislation I'm proposing, is that if there is that financial relationship, then the landlord has an ownership interest in the underwriter. They got to disclose that in the agency. So that's in a nutshell 1638. I'm not wedded to the lie, to Rule 3. I think an automatic termination of the lease or right for a surviving spouse to terminate the lease is a little bit, that's something you can negotiate. That's free market. And the other one is setting up the repairs and the maintenance and stuff. I think that's, that's free market too. There's nothing underhanded about that. You're at arm's length, you can negotiate those things, but the insurance provision, I think, unfairly captures the consumer and forces them into a relationship that they don't have any choice about. So, any questions?
Yeah, I'm looking at 1638, and as you described it, I'm sure we'll have some questions, but talk to me a little bit about the early termination of a surviving spouse.
Well, the gentleman that came to me, he and his wife are older. They downsized. I lived in an apartment, and I guess he's maybe doing in that stage of his life where he's doing estate planning and didn't realize what happens to me. My wife's on a fixed income. I don't know what their provisions were for survivor benefits or retirement and stuff like that, but he felt like it would be fair if a surviving spouse were not tied to an apartment. I get that argument, but again, I don't know that, quite frankly, we as a body will legislate those types of terms of a contract. And maybe if it was a military situation, they were on active duty, maybe different, but I mean, if the committee wants to recommend referring it, I'm happy with it, but I'm not wedded to that. I didn't commit to him that I was going to submit that legislation. It just kind of got wrapped up in the ball, and legislative services, drafted it based upon, Karen's submittal. So.
Sure. Because I see that, delegate, that's kind of almost two
I agree.
separate things.
I agree. So if you want to strike that, that's fine. I do like the subrogation.
Right. Okay. All right. Are there questions of the delegate at this point about 1638 and what he has outlined in terms of
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
freedom of contract and
One last comment. We had, my legislative had actually contacted a lot of the carriers, insurance carriers who provide renter's insurance, and they said, and they actually, we thought they would come out screaming and hollering, but I mean, we went out to the stakeholders, and they said, he says, that is unheard of in a renter's policy, to find that. He said, that is not in the renter's market. You may find it in the commercial deals, but to find it in a renter's situation is just absolutely unheard of. And they had no objection to this legislation.
All right. Questions of the delegate? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of House Bill 1638 as it's currently written before any amendments are made?
Unfortunately, I'm not in favor.
Right, well, okay, so no one's in favor. So let's, Christy Mara, you want to speak in favor of them?
Very brief.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Christy Mara with the Poverty Law Center, and I did not. My attention was not drawn to this bill in time to talk to Delegate Leftwich about it, but I would just like to voice my support for the bill as a whole, and also just note that in particular the provision, and I don't know if this is something that is on the table to be taken out or not, requiring the landlord to post a copy of the rental agreement and addenda on the public website would actually be very helpful for consumers, I think, to have that information ahead of time as they're shopping around for places to rent. It's very common these days to have to pay an application fee to apply, and rental housing is very much in demand. And so to the extent we can provide consumers with access to information about these agreements without having to require them to pay that $25 application fee or whatever it's at right now, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, those in opposition to 1638 as it's currently introduced.
Mr. Chairman, Chip Dixon, on behalf of the Virginia Association of Realtors and also the Northern Virginia Apartment Association, and Delegate Leftwich and I had a chance to chat about this bill, and let me focus on the lines that I think are objectionable, and then Delegate Leftwich and I talked about this a little bit. Lines 86 through 88 that Christy just spoke to, the state mandate that you post your rental agreement on the website. We asked that be considered, at least to be stricken from the bill. The maintenance obligations on line 108 through 113, that's cumbersome when a tenant requests maintenance or maintenance needs to be performed. This is at variance with 3 or 4 other sections of the VRLTA, so we'd ask consideration for lines 108 through 113 to be stricken. Delegate Leftwich was talking about lines 148 through 162. Currently what happens is that, sure. Mr. Chairman, I'll step back for a second.
Mr. Chairman, I was preoccupied in full general, and I was getting a phone call at work, and when I was explaining the bills, quite honestly, I blended the two. I'm comfortable with striking 1638 and just dealing with the subrogation issue on 1639.
Okay. Well,
so I've eliminated opposition.
If I could turn back time, I would find a way. How about also, you've got about 5 different things going on in that bill. I mean, policy questions that aren't all totally related. In other words, I mean, you can take any of them in isolation. As a member of the Housing Commission, you may want to strike that bill, but I think it would be fair to say that we could take a look at it, some of those questions, if they could be worked out. I know that your constituent has some pretty legitimate issues related to subrogation. If we don't act favorably on that, then, all of this will be taken up on the other.
They got the two bills, 38, 39 deals with subrogation. 38 deals with website maintenance.
Well, I mean, delegate in 38, you also have landlord cannot require a tenant to, one, pay both security deposits, or two, agree to a waiver of subrogation. So I mean, the issues addressed in that as well. So he wants to strike the bill. Why don't we move to lay it on the table and ask Elizabeth, maybe we can put all of those issues sort of in that subcommittee of affordable, whatever I do. Thank you. Without objection, we'll lay it on the table. Okay, House Bill 1639, do you need to address that issue further in this context, or we only have some housekeeping measures remaining after this bill, so.
Well, I know that I do think it is, in other areas of the law, you do have to disclose a interest before steering someone to an insurance underwriter. I think it's a valid concern, but if the will of the committee.
Mr. Dix, what would you like to offer?
Chairman, I was going to suggest, since the first bill was going to the Housing Commission, if this bill went to the Housing Commission too, to be looked at.
And sort of no harm to, trying to solve this problem for your constituent. I know the Housing Commission does good work and typically makes a positive recommendation after stakeholder meetings. So, you may have to come to Richmond 1 or 2 times, but if you're willing to work with the commission, we can commit to looking at these issues in that context. Is that fair?
It's fair.
Okay. All right, so without objection, we'll lay 1639 on the table with the same directive to the Housing Commission, and tell your constituent we appreciate bringing this to our attention, and we'll be looking at it in the off session.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. All right. Looking for my little notes here. Take my sheet. All right. I'm going to pass out 2 amendments in nature substituted. Pass them down and pass them back and go the other direction. These are amendments in nature substitute for House Bill 2274 and House Bill 2045. There's consensus for both bills. We've heard both bills last meeting. These bills deal with the POA and condo acts respectively, and they deals with how associations may condition or limit or prohibit sale for signs, other than limiting signs to those that are in compliance, how they deal with powers of attorney and issues related to failure to deliver association disclosure packets. We committed to the patrons last meeting that we would simply see the substitute, have them before us, adopt the substitutes, and then it was the temperature of the committee that we would recommend reporting those substitutes unanimously. So y'all have the substitutes. I don't know of any objection to either bill. We'll give Mr. Dix or others who participated in all those stakeholder meetings a chance to take a look at them briefly, and then we'll do one at a time, 2045 and 22. I'll just give everyone a chance to take a look at those. Then in a moment, we will adopt each without objection and take motions to recommend reporting. Mr. Dix.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at House Bill 2045.
Good.
And I believe that the other stakeholders would concur with me that the language on lines 270 to 279 should be left as it is, because instead of the $1,000 damage penalty in subsection L, there's a new provision that says up to $1,000 to go to the CIC board. So I believe it's a correct statement. Looking for Jack and Tripp. I think 270 to 279, the language changes there on line 271, 272, and 273 should be that.
Reversed.
Well, it should be left as it is under existing law.
Right, yeah, we're not gonna change it by adding number 2.
That's correct.
So
That's correct.
taking that out, okay. Are there other changes that the stakeholder group would like to make to either of these drafts as we have them before us?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chairman. I think all the other languages is as it should be in both bills.
Okay.
And Jack
So-
concurs.
Well, thank you very much for that, and appreciate council working on these substitutes off week. House Bill 2045, let's adopt the substitute with the amendment that Mr. Dix has offered, returning to current law all of section L in this draft. And without objection, the substitute is before us as amended. Is there a motion on the substitute? Motion to recommend reporting House Bill 2045 amendment in nature substitute as amended. Properly seconded, discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Matter is recommended for reporting. House Bill 2274, are there further changes to 2274 based on the stakeholder group that have been meeting? The substitute is accurate as presented. We'll adopt it as without objection. Is there a motion on the bill? To recommend reporting House Bill 2274, Delegate Danny Marshall.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And we have a motion, a second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. Thank you very much. So let me go back to our agenda. Delegate Helsel, House Bill 1481. We will just take that by for the week. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
without objection, we'll take it by. And then Delegate Torian, I believe the last matter on our agenda is Delegate Torian's House Bill 2203. He had asked me to take that by for a week as well, with the hope that folks could work out some language. So without objection, we'll take House Bill 2203 by for the week, and those will be our only 2 bills remaining for our subcommittee. We were not referred, I don't think, any additional bills after the last filing deadline of Friday a week. And with that said, I believe that if these 2 bills are not able to be worked through, it's probably the indication of the patrons that they will not be putting them forward. So we could, our meeting will be very brief, or we can talk with the big chairman, we can deal with laying on the table, striking in full committee. So that would save us time and allow for other subcommittees to meet. So with that, we don't have any other bills on the agenda. Mr. Dix, do you want to address subcommittee?
Mr. Chairman, I would. I understood that Delegate Miller's omnibus.
Oh, yeah, excuse me, I apologize. I was just looking at what's on our agenda today. Yes, the omnibus bill y'all are continuing to work on, and hopefully we'll be ready by.
I can reach consensus on it, and it's been sent to Maria for drafting.
So we will have a meeting on that one bill and maybe 2 others, and we'll go from there. But good work, and thank y'all very much for standing adjourned.